The other day, March 3rd, 2018, The Legend of Zelda turned 1. That's right, it's been 1 year since The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild released on Nintendo Switch and the Wii U. So, in honor of the anniversary, and since it's been a very long time since I've done a Zelda related video, I think the last video I done was my review for Breath of the Wild. I think it's about time I do a video about The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild in honor of its 1 year anniversary. So let's get into it, shall we? So as you can see from the title of this video, this isn't me talking about how amazing The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is. This is me talking about my biggest problem with the game. I'm not saying it's a bad game, I'm just gonna say my biggest problem that I have with it so far, or one of the many issues, but this is by far the biggest one. Now let's talk about the dungeons and temples in Breath of the Wild, or should I say lack of. Because Breath of the Wild doesn't have the typical temples that past Zelda games have had with the Fire Temple, Water Temple and stuff like that. Breath of the Wild has 4 divine beasts. And the thing that's so disappointing about these is they are very similar. You've probably seen many people talk about this already, but it is really its biggest issue. Like someone like me, I loved going through, tackling the Forest Temple and all that in all the other games. I know some people like that they changed it up and done something a little bit different, and the fact that you can do the divine beasts in any order. But I would have preferred if it still had the typical temples thrown in the world that you were able to find, and you can do them in any order. The divine beast was cool. They could have still at least had a theme to them or something like that, more so than they have, and they could have been filled with more puzzles and more creatures to kill. But ultimately in the end, the divine beasts aren't very impressive. They are cool to do once. They're not something you're going to want to do again, or you're not really going to look forward to it on your second playthrough, because there's really nothing to them. It is cool that you can control individual parts in each one, but then when you get to the end of the divine beast, you're faced with a boss battle. But the thing that's so bad about this is all 4 of the divine beast bosses look the same. They do fight differently, I will give it that, but they look very similar, and it's just like you're fighting the same boss over and over again with different variations. It is fun to fight each of the bosses. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that it's not very interesting when they all look like you're fighting the same guy. I'm gonna say Halo 5 for example. Halo 5 did something similar in Halo 5 Guardians. You did have to fight one of the bosses over and over and over again. But in Halo 5 it was even worse because there wasn't any differences. There wasn't any variations. In this it is like you're fighting the same boss over and over again with differences. It's still bad either way, and I would have preferred if each divine beast had its own unique boss that looked different to that beast, and it wasn't like the same type of reskin over and over again. I'm going to use this picture as a quick example. This is just showing a few of the bosses in The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, a game that released years ago. And this is just showing how different each of the bosses in this game look from one another. They're all unique and they're all different. But when you compare it to the bosses in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, it really is like you're just fighting the same thing over and over again after already going through a divine beast that wasn't particularly interesting. So when you add it all together with a divine beast that isn't very fun to do, it has a really uninteresting boss. It's cool the first time, but when you see that it's just the same boss over and over again, it really just leaves that the divine beasts are one of the weakest, if not, for me, my weakest part of Breath of the Wild. Because being honest with you, they are completely and utterly forgettable. I can't remember them. They're the weakest part. I have no desire to ever want to do a divine beast again. I am thinking of just doing a Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild playthrough without doing any divine beasts, because I don't look forward to doing it. They're not that long, but I don't even want to waste time doing a divine beast because they're pretty boring. There's not much to do in them, and then you just go in to solve the puzzle, fight the boss. They're not big epic temples where it can take a little bit of time. You have to fight enemies, get keys, and then the temples you solve a lot more puzzles than you do in the divine beast, because they're mainly focusing on one bigger puzzle, where temples have some smaller ones scattered throughout. So that is why I think the divine beasts are the biggest letdown in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. They're just not fun to do, they're not interesting. But while I'm talking about, I might as well talk about another thing that's kind of a letdown, and that is the music in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. There just isn't as much as I would have liked. It doesn't have the same kind of feel. Like, it does sound like Zelda music, don't say I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there's just a lot more in past Zelda games. Like they have more to their soundtrack and stuff like that. But that isn't as big as an issue as the Divine Beast. But when you're going around in Breath of the Wild, I just wish some classic music was playing throughout the world, more of it than there is right now. But that is it for me. That is my biggest issue with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. How many times did I say that in this video? I should have just said Breath of the Wild every single time, but I went the extra mile. So for that, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this video, and let me know what you'd like to see next. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day. Bye. Hey everyone, if you've made it this far, that means you've made it to the end of the video, and I just want to say thank you all for watching, and remember, if you enjoyed this, hit the thumbs up button and click any of the video links that are displayed now if you want to see more content from me. Have a great day.